Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as the penultimate best of three. The last semifinal of Crucible is upon us. It's QoR, it's M80. My name is CDAPS. I'm joined by Klims. I'm joined by Yali. Mason, we'll start with you this time. How are you feeling after that last game?
Excited to get into the next one, I think. Ultimately, it kind of went the complete opposite of how I was expecting. And JJ showed up. He talked the talk, walked the walk. So we'll have to see if M80X can do the same thing, because they also love to talk the talk.
And Yali, you as well?
I honestly, after that last game, I'm not sure what to expect. I've got some things written down. I've made predictions and everything, but I mean, JJ has just blown my mind, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some things that are just entirely unpredictable.
Alrighty, enough of the past. Let's look into the future, as we do have another best of three ahead of us.
Yeah,
like we said, it's
that's basically what it
QoR
is,
against M80. On the left side, Mason, this QoR gaming roster is one that we are familiar with, coming from Element, where they found limited success.
Yeah, QoR, I thought they were one of my favorite teams to win Element at the very beginning of playoffs, and then they completely fell off the face of the earth. They have made that recent roster move in dropping Twist, bringing on Brios, or bringing Brios rather back to the roster. But I do think that the core team is strong overall, and ultimately they've got the fundamentals, they've got the ability to be a good roster. It's just, can they put the pieces together, especially against an unpredictable team just like M80X, because these kids, they're the new kids on the block. They've been throwing everybody off, so QoR are going to have some challenges thrown their way with a newer team, a new style of gameplay being thrown at them that they're not quite used to.
Yeah, but Yali, when we talk about QoR, they are just a very sound, kind of run-of-the-mill, fundamental-based kind of team.
Yeah, if you've ever talked to Cohen, he is a huge advocate for that sort of bring your checklist, get it done, get everything in. But very typically from QoR, I mean, I was able to pull out 2-3 rounds where it went exactly like, we're going to do our roam clear, and then they get towards the actual site and they're coming up against a turtle, and they have no spearhead, nothing to get behind to actually break into the site and form an execute. And time runs down, 20 seconds, execute completely falls flat. And that may or may not play to their advantage against M80X, right? QoR is very good at taking advantage of the mistakes of their opponents, which M80X, like you said, very unpredictable, might be a little harder to take advantage because of that, but QoR, because they're so solid, that might lend to them. At the same time, they are still receiving instruction from both Merc and Fett, who I know is a huge proponent of that rock, paper, scissors meta that we've talked about a little bit, where you take a coordinated team, they're going to lose against a turtle team, going to lose against a rank style team, going to lose against a coordinated team. So M80X, I think, has the adaptability to pull it out from under QoR.
Well, we don't want to go into M80 just yet, because we did get the opportunity to sit down with Candle from QoR, pick his brain a little bit, so everybody enjoy.
Hello, my name is Candle. I play for QoR Gaming, and I am an entry. Who did I play? Can you remind me? I don't remember. Is that bad? Slime Belief. It was like, okay. Our first game of playoffs, I felt like we started off okay. We lost second map, so I feel like we kind of just like second-guessed ourselves, but once we got comfortable in the third map, I feel like we shut it down pretty quickly, so. Our thoughts going into the M80 game, we expect them to be, I mean, respectfully, they are console players, so they're probably just going to run around and take ones and fight everything. So, I mean, we're prepared for that. I do see a lot of potential in them, but at the end of the day, I think we're more experienced and the better team, so I think we'll close it out. I just want to thank everyone for supporting us at QoR and all my teammates. The support's been really nice, and hopefully we can make you guys proud. The console glazers need to be studied, bro. They're terrifying. They're terrifying.
And with that, Mr. Candle kind of set up QoR to be just a very fundamental, well-spoken, very just professional style team. And on the other side with M80X, it's a whole bunch of wild cards with some big names, Mason.
Put it best in his interview that you just saw, was they have potential. They are very good players. They are console kids, so they have a different ideology of how the typical side of Siege is played on PC, because you can notice those fundamentals and just the differences in the right play and stuff like that. Because people on a controller have to play the game a little bit different than people with a keyboard and mouse, but they have picked up the game quickly on keyboard and mouse, and they look like a very, very exciting roster. And ultimately, with the great minds of Fett as well as Merc in the background teaching these guys the fundamentals, they look really good. And you really have to commend Stompin and Aiden, who are probably the two best shooters on this roster. But even then, you've got Rice bringing in some Pro League experience back on his stint with DZ. So you have all the pieces coming together to really formulate a nice young roster, which we haven't seen in Rainbow Six in the competitive side of things in ages, it feels like.
Yeah, when you have people like M80X and people like Stompin who can just step up Yali and completely take over rounds, it's been really nice to see how it feels like every time they load in the server, they just get so much better.
Yeah, and I mean, their numbers absolutely speak to that. Yes, 121 for both of them. But beyond that as well, M80X, the IGL, has shown to be a pivotal member of the team just in terms of leadership as well. There are several rounds that I can pull out where they just have the full adaptability. They'll play an attack one way, and then the next time they come up against that site, it'll be something completely different, completely unexpected by the defense, and they'll execute it just as well as they did the previous time. And it's never like they're doing the same thing once and then they're doing it against another team later. They learn from every single round and implement it as they continue moving forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing highlights of that in this matchup, especially against a team like QoR.
Yep, and with that, we also did get an opportunity to sit down with M80X and pick his brain. So enjoy, everybody.
Yo, Aiden again for M80X, hard breach IGL for M80 GGX. Should have been better. Played Chalet pretty sloppy. We like to always start off slow, but we won. That's all that matters. Move on to day 2 versus QoR. I mean, QoR is a pretty good team. They just made a pretty good roster move. Twist is awful. QoR, they're a solid team. They don't have the best of coach, but they have a solid 5. Excited to play them. They're like one of our first like real like good T2 teams that we played in a while. They're from the other group, so we've never played them. We've never seen how they play. They don't know how we play. Of course, like VODs, but it never compares. Yeah, I mean they're gonna be a tough opponent, but I think we can come out on top. Definitely a better team, but we're definitely a better team. Just a known cheater. Zim for like 5 years. Couldn't afford a PS5, so he moved to Xbox. He dated Poppy and had an IRL girlfriend at the same time. Did get caught, and then both of them broke up with him. So now he's a lonely loser who are a Las Vegas Raiders fan. So it doesn't get much worse than that. Dead last in our fantasy football league every single year. Oh, Candle. I mean, that kid is literally their win condition. If that kid drops 20, they win. But if he doesn't, they lose. P. Moses has the same aim as Jinxie. That's pretty much everybody I know on that team. Cohen, again, check stealer, no future. The worst coach I've ever seen. I would rather have no coach than have Cohen as my coach. I want to shout out my king Stompin for everything that he does for the team. I mean, he's definitely going pro league. He's so good. Merc has literally opened all of our eyes. Merc has literally opened our eyes up completely. He's completely changed the way that we see the game, and it feels like this is the first time I ever felt like I'm playing like strategical real Siege instead of running around killing everyone. To shout out to, of course, like all the watch partiers. Fett, I love Fett. Oh my god, he's so cool. He's so down to earth. I mean, I love my goat. All of this is possible. All the popularity is because of my duo Jinxie. I bought his charm. He might have bitched at me in Among Us yesterday, but he's still my goat. Richie, he's awesome. I met him. He definitely fakes his Italian accent. IRL, it's not the same, but he's still awesome. Mingo's pretty cool.
It feels like M80 Academy definitely have a lot of people in their corner, so many supporters and so many people to play for. But Mason, we already got to listen with Aiden talking about Merc, how much strategy he's bringing in towards this team. I imagine we're probably going to see it a little bit in these map videos.
Same with Nighthaven Labs, so to see those two maps ditched away rather early on. Makes perfect sense, especially because these are strong suit maps of M80X, formerly Bands Coast. Consulate being the first pick, kind of an interesting one. I think that's going to be a strategical nightmare between both teams. So ultimately, it'll have to be adaptation versus adaptation to see who really pulls that out. Border as well, an exciting map between these teams. But Bands Coast, M80X, not a lot of experience there. So the fact that they pick into it, they've got to have some sort of prep work, some sort of ability to be prepared. I'm excited to see what they flush out for us.
I imagine that both of these teams are probably pretty prepared going in towards Consulate. Or they chose at Yali, and on the other side, we already got to see a little glimpse that, M80 Academy already had a full just PowerPoint presentation prepared for this map.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking, well, specifically about Chalet, the closer, should we get there, but as well on, I totally forgot what the second map was already. Wow.
Border.
It's gone. Border,
Consulate,
thank
Border,
you.
Chalet.
Cancel it, Border and Chalet. Yeah, Border is a map that is, I'm not going to say it's entirely fundamental focused, right? But because of that, Core might struggle, right? They might have a little bit of a difficult time figuring out what they want to do, where they want to be. But on the other hand, it might force them to find these picks, right? It's not really a chance for them to get two at a time, and they're all going to have to make sure they each become spearheads individually, or nothing's going to happen.
Well, we might get to Chalet, but first we will have to go in towards Consulate, and our casters will take it away. Have fun out there, Chaka and Fellow.
Waiting for Chaka, the big reveal to see if M80X will make their way to the grand finals against JJ & Co., who are looking extremely forward to facing them, or Core Gaming, a consistent group in the Tier 2 and now Tier 3 scene, facing off in the top 4 position of the Crucible. First map is Consulate. We've already seen M80X grow and thrive under their new organization with the help of their brand new coaching of Fett and Merc. They have been doing such a good job at keeping the early game tempo, keeping that aggression, not willing to give up that map control early, especially on the defense, which is where they're starting off on Consulate. That's the side they ended up picking. Against Core, which is a very structured team, Chaka, what kind of struggles could that lead them to?
Well, like the desk emphasized a hell of a lot of times, actually, is that Core are a step-by-step team, like you mentioned, very fundamentally focused. And if at any point in time, if one of those steps is interrupted because of an aggressive play or because of a small mishap on the side of Core, then they completely crumble as a team. It reminds me of like DZ, like when Canadian was IGLing for that team, or even Outlast at some points during the earlier parts of Crucible, if you really want me to relate it back to this event. Either way, Core has had some, not struggles recently, but during Element and then during some parts of Crucible have certainly looked weaker against some of the stronger teams here.
Well, not a shocker here. First ban going to be Blackbeard off the board, followed up by a Dokkaebi. I haven't really seen M80X play a lot of this info op, but when you focus a lot on the intel, when you focus a lot on the roam clear for this map, she is a great operator at countering that and also speeding up that lengthy process of doing those mostly default top to bottom clears on most bomb sites for a map like Consulate, besides, of course, the top floor objective of Meeting Room and Council. Going to see Cade and Azami followed up as well. Nothing really too shocking, to be honest, except for the fact that we have 2 shields available because of that ban for Dokkaebi rather than a Blitz, rather than a Montaigne. But both M80X and Core are pretty reliable on those shield picks, so not really going to be shocked if we see that picked almost every single round, given the fact that they're really in the meta, besides maybe Council, as that bomb site can be really hard to implement a shield if you're doing something like an admin overtake. They're only usually used for a yellow clear, but starting out on this top floor bomb site, a lot of stall potential here with M80X's composition here, Chaka.
Yeah, you have Smoke Goya. You don't usually see the Tachanka a lot, but he can provide a lot of stall utility, like you mentioned. Sometimes what you see teams do, especially with either a Smoke or the Tachanka in this lineup, is play them inside of catering, because, especially if the attacking team doesn't get this wall open. That's why they have the Bandit here in order to be able to Bandit trick that wall for the rest of this round so that you have that contingency point in catering to throw some utility over that little gap, that little window ceiling that you see at the top of the wall in catering, towards the meeting door to waste a lot of time towards the late round and stall the execute, which is a big issue that Core does have a problem with when they are attacking some of these difficult to break down maps.
I love the idea here for M80X. They know that QoR is a very structured and slow team, bringing out all these stall operators, trying to waste as much time as humanly possible without necessarily risking their life. But if the opportunity presents itself, they can go for an aggressive gunfight. Interesting play here by Aiden, going all the way down in the basement floor. If he's got info, he could either go for a flank or maybe use that Nitro cell if given the opportunity on the default cam. If someone goes in through Visa, there's some vert being held as well to stop maybe an early push in through lobby. That's a pretty common power spot to take if you want to go for vertical, which in this case for QoR, they have that option since they're playing Buck. Rival's job, most likely, getting lobby control, maybe going inside of Visa, helping this clear on the backside of the map. That way QoR can get into the map early and start dealing with this heavy emphasis of utility. But first, they got to deal with Compy, and that's Stompin's position currently as QoR now begin to enter into the building. Brioche trying to mask his hop in with the bullets. Candle with the coverage. That's Stompin down, and a great start for QoR on this entry as they now collect 2. Beautiful shot by Brioche as Rice had 0 info, indicating that Brioche had already entered into the building.
And at that point in time, now M80X can no longer really hold as aggressively over by the admin side. The shield isn't even placed in the vending in the first place. It's placed over by lamps to deny or walk up yellow, for example. But even then, that makes this admin overhold very weak for M80X because it's non-existent by this point due to them losing so many bodies on this side. And now there's going to be a lot of emphasis on this late round utility, but we're not even in the late round yet, John. They still have to fight through this middle to early round.
Still over a minute to deal with these toxic babes, to deal with these Shamika launchers and the Goyo packs that have not been exploded yet, but they still have the man advantage despite that shot landed by Franklin. Still playing a little bit further, tucked, a minute on the board for QoR. No more nades left, but still 2 Rotero drones and plenty of hard breach if they want to rotate onto that catering wall, but Moses is the one with that diffuser. So if he were to do that, he might need to give up case to somebody else. In the meantime, they're still trying to use this explosive utility to force back the defense. And now the vert comes into play as well. There's some stale info, but regardless, Rival clearing out these power spots. It's allowing QoR to push in further. But again, emphasis on the stall. There's still 2 toxic babes and plenty of utility here from the Tachanka. And Inreal pushes in from long desk and gets down. The toxic canister finishes him off. And all of a sudden, with 20 seconds left on the board, M80X have tied us into a 3 versus 3. Rival now playing top spiral, hoping to use this cutoff, but Aiden spots a gap. That's now Brioche gone. Rival forced to push up. He'll meet his maker by Vic Vans' SMG, and Aiden follows up with another beautiful closure from M80X despite losing the first 2 gunfights.
One of the first primary points that the desk talked about is QoR being a fundamental team depending on step-by-step processes in order to make their plan work. Yeah, they've got through the first step really, really quickly, getting that admin control due to some over-aggression from M80X. But then after that, in the late round, they stalled really, really hard and struggled to make an entry inside of sight because, well, they didn't open catering wall, so that allowed the Tachanka to get the Shamika launchers over the ceiling, and then right at the meeting door, further stalling out QoR's time. And then you saw QoR be extremely uncoordinated. They're not coordinating their pushes together, giving up crucial ones to M80X, who can easily capitalize off of that. They're a great team with good gun skill, and they showed it in that late round when QoR made the mistake of just giving them ones because they slightly panicked because of the Tachanka and meeting.
It did seem like they were panic shock, and that's exactly what I was going to say, funnily enough. They were concerned that with, the vertical not finding anybody overexposed, not netting any free kills, and on top of that as well, not being able to spot people like the Tachanka or the smoke, it made them a little bit concerned that maybe they should go for an aggressive gunfight, catch somebody with their pants down with their utility in their hand rather than a gun, and it backfired. That's probably the worst thing you want to go for in those man advantages, just 1-for-1 gunfights with no info and no one with you to trade, giving M80X the opportunity to recover and again play for the win con of slowing down QoR, which is when they face that problem of slowing down, they tend to be a lot less successful on their attacks. But now we go into the basement. I talked about the info game, especially on a bomb site like the basement. You've now got the Valkyrie Black Eye cameras. You've got the emphasis of those Mozzie pests once again for drone denial, also being assisted with those jammers. And the Legion as well, to slow things down and also have extra info. They spot the ace here on this rappel, and Aiden might want to wait here for him to fully hop up. He'll go for the run out instead, hops out while he's on his camera, and that's the breach gone. That's a massive kill. Even if he's traded, that's so worth it for M80X, as now there's 0 chance of them getting this main wall open.
Zero hard breach from Core in this round, apart from the ace. So yeah, like you mentioned, they can't get this main wall open, which means that they're probably going to be forced to do an execute over by the server side, which is where they're already rotating. And M80X, they seem to have good info on this already with the help of these, the Mozzie Pest catching a drone over by Tellers, and also you have Valkyrie cameras too to spot this rotation. Plus, knowing who you killed is a big plus for M80X now that they know where Core are pushing.
Having microphone, that's why. I'm sorry about that. In case you didn't hear me on vMix, my microphone moved and it totally screwed up my tempo there, but that's all good. Core, as I was talking about, in case you didn't hear it, they've had to completely change up their play style as they now readjust, work their way down through Tellers. They spot a kill against Vic Bans. They've gained back this man advantage. Now they're looking off of this info to try to push in and go for a kitchen take. However, M80, once again, they're playing passive. They're waiting for Core to make that first move. Drone detected. They know about Franklin's position as they try to force him out. He instead gets a little more aggro, maybe looking for a gunfight here as Core, once again, they're forced to push up further through this backside by Tellers. They're split into a 2-2 take, trying to clear out small office and also push their way into the bomb site. But there's the crossfire. There's the coordination from M80X as they spiral with 3 separate kills, putting us in a 1 versus 1 as Core were at least able to trade. Rice, his position known, but Rival would try to stick this plant, baiting out Rice, but he's got no rotation. The wall is reinforced. There's a red ping, but Rival will stick this defuse, goes in for the swing, but Rice will win it. No questions asked. And as he's got plenty of time to defuse, that's now the second round confirmed for M80.
Honestly, yeah, again, them losing that pick onto the ace already, first kill, the only hard breacher there from Core meant that they were very limited in the way that they could approach that round. They had to do a full rotation on the other side. But reminder, even if you are pushing over by servers, you still need a hard breach too to open up that wall in front of the cafeteria that's over by server. That one wall can really unorganize the defense and at least give you more options to push on the hallways. Otherwise, you're just pushing down narrow hallways, giving yourself worse options to work with. And it allowed M80X to thrive in at least a trade potential, despite being a man down compared to Core.
Going into now round number 3, it'll be a Teller's defense rather than Piano. This bomb site, it can be a little more challenging because of if Core are able to enter in from that top floor and establish verticality, it might be a little more challenging to, of course, defend the actual A bomb site itself, but you also have to sacrifice a lot more of the map for the attack. You'll also need to have at least someone going down below to stop people like Aiden on the pulse, Rice with Valkyrie, all these info ops that also have a Nitro Cell as their secondary piece of utility. They could easily stop a plant given the fact that 90% of that top floor bomb site in Tellers is destructible. That's a very easy way of denying a plant if it ends up coming down to that for Core. So they have to have an efficient roam clear, which so far they really haven't. They were completely unaware that somebody was benches earlier in the round. That led to the early death of Moses on the most impactful operator of round number 2. And almost the exact same thing happened, but more towards the late round where sure, Core ended up winning those first 2 entries, but later in the round, once they tried to burn through all that utility, they kind of came to a breaching halt. Here comes the early aggression once again by M80X. C4 tossed out, but it doesn't connect, keeping this member of Core alive. But there's the hop out for confirmation. Good God. Aiden was so hungry for that kill, and he gets it. The top fragger of Candle, enemy number 1 of Core, is now gone.
No immediate refrag neither. There was somebody just outside of the Visa window, and nobody was able to cut him off there for Core. I mean, the Ash here isn't really the worst thing to lose, considering that there is no mirror windows. Only thing you really get to counter with those Ash charges on this M80X lineup are the bulletproof cameras, but that's exactly what the desk was talking about. M80X, because of how they like to play, they play really, really aggressive, and seemingly that has thrown Core off. Again, they pause, and they take a minute off of the clock here from themselves, and they're setting up vertical with 1 minute and 40 to go. Still enough time to work with, but yeah, they're still operating with a body less than what M80X have.
trade game. That could be enough. M80X is once again core. Down. Out. Gotta wait. As of right now, Flash is coming out, hoping to push back M80X a little bit to confirm this hatch drop, and eventually they go for it. There's a chance they could try to get this bomb down, but once again, the presence from down below. Rice still has a nitro cell. These EMPs coming out, trying to deny the info, and Moses in the nick of time dodges that C4. The bulletproof hammer disabled. Big Vans catches one from down below, but that's not the planter. Moses will confirm a post plant for core. Now in a 3 versus 4, this might just be winnable, but again, M80X, they have the man advantage, and they're playing together for trades, stomping with the first, but it's a 1-for-1 against Moses. Still a man advantage for M80X, but again, that timer ticking down. This gives time for Core to retake this top floor and hold the vertical against this diffuser. Rio's a nice shot. They almost don't deny the plant, though. He finds the second onto Rice with just a second left on that disable, and now Aiden, he's got no help from his team. He's forced to retake this top floor and has nothing to work off of except for this UMP-45, the worst gun in the game, and it looks to be all but over. There's no time left for Aiden. Finds one in compensation, but finally, after 3 grueling rounds, Core are on the board for Consulate.
Time they actually took it slow. They got the, well, not the opening pick that happened in favor of M80X. They worked the vertical, they worked the site control, and you can say from M80X, yeah, there was probably an overdependency on having the nitro cells hit. There was only 2 of them, not enough other plant denial or other opportunities for M80X to stop the plant. Had good information on it, but with Core, with those EMPs, they timed them extremely well, not only denying the information through the post scanner, but then also disabling the other nitro cell that happened to explode really late, but onto another person that wasn't the planter. And then towards the late round, because they already set up that vertical earlier on after establishing admin control, they just used that in the post plant. So really nice execution from Core. The one thing that we already talked about is that Core tend to be a very step-by-step team. When they get interrupted, they fall apart. And that was a good example of them at least adapting in the mid to late round when they had already lost so much, the Ash Candle being their entry. And that time when they lost, and they just worked off a really nice execute in the end.
Finally, a small sign of life here for Core. We go back to a bomb site that despite them winning 2 opening gunfights on, they still struggled in the mid to late round just to get out of admin and find an opening to take advantage of to get this diffuser down. I thought maybe the idea could have been to go something for more of like a yellow take here. They've got somebody spawning in from the yellow skylight. That's Rival gathering info with this IQ scanner. So maybe if they spot a gap from that position, they could rotate and go for a plant over in council rather than this admin overtake. But they still have an admin presence, just to a much smaller degree. And M80X doubling down on playing aggro over here. Instead of stomping playing by copy, he's an admin early and now falls off after being droned. So it looks like they're trying to waste more time and resources here rather than pushing in after the fact they realize it's an admin take.
You mentioned backing off a little bit quicker, so that may mean that Core at some point would swing in through the windows. We saw that even when Stompin was over here the last time. They swung in really early, taking this control, and now it's going to force this extension over by the admin side to fall off really quickly. No showed over by Bending. I'm pretty sure they put it over by Lamps like they did last time, and so now they really have nobody holding over by admin side. But again, we know that M80X, because of the way that Core like to play, really slow in the mid to late round, that they're playing exactly that, the late round.
Still no entry, so to speak. Potentially a misdrone here for Aiden. He ends up walking back up Visa instead. The Goyo popped early. So far, not a terrible spot for Core, just because they still have these 5 bodies alive, even a cutoff here by top spiral. But now that Mozzie's been dealt with from down below, Rival will at least threaten some pressure here. Going underneath by the Visa staircase, breaking that barbed wire in case they want to go back in the final call for the execute. M80X even a little concerned that there could be someone lurking up yellow. They have a shield and they have someone holding it as of right now. In the meantime, again, 50 seconds left to go. Core still trying to gather info, now introducing the Grim into this lineup, but it's still Aiden firing on all cylinders in this first half. That's now his 6th kill going into the 4th round. and now you begin to see these toxic babes deployed. It seems like there is a bit of a readjustment here, having Inrio now on the alert, gathering info. There's 2 players inside of Council, but all he's doing right now is just holding this passive angle, this info. Maybe a chance for QoR to push in through. They spot the guy tucked inside a meeting room, but Stompin, a quick back-to-back as he sprays down through the wall, shutting down this execute that forces Candle to push up, but it's now a third for Stompin, leaving just Inrio forced to rotate top spiral, but it's futile as this top floor site is still impenetrable for QoR Gaming.
And even when QoR that they found a solution to the issue for their late round issues for that site by providing a little bit of a distraction with the Grim, placing his Grim windows on the console office windows, that obviously forced some rotations from M80X, specifically with the Tachanka going there to fire off the window repel to make sure that nobody swings in to go for an easy plant. QoR still had a lot of issues with entering the site because not all of M80X committed to the full rotation to the office side, giving full site control to QoR. You still had somebody in catering because QoR neglected to open the catering wall. That was one win condition that we outlined for M80X the very first round, with there being a smoke and Tachanka on the board. You also have somebody playing inside of meeting tucked into a corner that can hear exactly what's going on that side of the map and call for what QoR are exactly doing, knowing that people are running in from the admin side to still execute by meeting, and that the office window play was just a farce, that QoR weren't actually committing to an office execute, they were still committing to meeting, and M80 were still able to play the late round so effectively because of that.
M80X once again on a heavy roam here. It seems like the stall has worked incredibly well for M80X, not only on both their top floor attacks, bringing a large emphasis on just stopping anyone from pushing past admin. Again, the Goyo, Vulcan packs, the Tachanka, Shamika launchers, Smoke, Toxic Babes, it's all been way too much for QoR to handle, even when they try to diversify and bring in some extra pressure from both top yellow and that window repel leading into the site of Council. Now this time for QoR, it looks like instead of immediately pushing their way for the open breach with just Moses on that ace, it looks like they'll go for a full top to bottom clear. They've got the Deimos, they've got Sledge as well for Vert once they clear out this top floor, but once again, Vic starting out strong for his team. That's now your buck gone. Rival having a very quiet first half so far on their map pick of Consulate. And when M80X already burning a minute and half the drone economy with an entry, if they want to fall off, they most easily can. But again, given this lack of info, besides the Deimos Deathmark trackers, if someone just simply hides away in a rat corner and waits to flank in the late round, I'm not really sure if QoR will have a response to that, and that could easily be another opportunity for M80 to find an easy round on this defense. But Candle, with the help of those Deathmark trackers I just highlighted, he gets his teammates trade in the long run. That's now the Mozzie gone, but a trade for a Mozzie compared to a buck, I mean, M80X will still take that 24/7. And now as Stompin gets detected, he hears the audio call from Visa, but he gets away just the nick of time, and he has a teammate here to assist him from the back hallway, so it's not a complete walk in the park here. They even have info as well from down below, and nice C4 landed from Franklin, and off screen, Stompin connects 3 in a row. Are you kidding me? Beautiful shutdown of this roam. QoR left flustered as they still continue to only have 1 round in this half.
And Stompin's just been so consistently good for M80X ever since they turned around their form in Crucible towards the beginning or towards the middle part of the group stages, right when they went on that 3-game winning streak just in one night. And he's been amazing for them ever since. In their last game M80X played in the quarterfinals, he was absolutely amazing for them. And now on this roam that QoR seemingly just cannot clear. I mean, like you mentioned, they got a trade. It's some Mozzie for a buck. But that wasn't even really the primary issue there for QoR. The primary issue was they just spent so long hunting down the roamers, and nobody was really consistently behind the info that they were gathering. Like, there's nobody playing behind these drones. They're not really taking initiative. And that's the one thing that, again, I'm going to keep referencing the desk because I think they did a really good job analyzing this game before we went into it. QoR has an issue with just, like, taking initiative and having, like, somebody who can actually spearhead and really take the round by the scruff of their neck. If their name is not Kendall, nobody else will do it on QoR, it seems.
That seems to be the case right now. Both Candle and Brios, the only 2 people kind of keeping up with M80X. Everybody else 1 and 5. And even then, Candle and Brios have not been finding a majority of these entries against M80X. It's kind of been a mixed bag for the offense, struggling quite a lot with, again, that initial map control and finding the weak point against M80X's just brutal roam. Now going into Piano, Tellers was not a great bomb site choice for them. That's the only objective that they lost. Worst case scenario, it's a 4-2 split, which is still default for Consulate, but best case scenario, they get 5-1 split in case QoR kind of struggle a lot with, again, clearing out this primary roam that M80 have brought out almost every single time, if not every single time when playing this map so far. So not really a bad spot whatsoever for M80X. And here's the aggression once again, trying to go for this hop out, but not a lot of info to work off of. But they've got info from the C4. Narrowly dodged. M80X still hunting for this entry, and although it'll be Brios to get rid of Stompin', Rice immediately responds with a kill of his own. 4 versus 4, and they still got info about Brios hiding inside of admin. I think this player right beside him near Coffin is looking to hunt him down. Both Vic Bands and Rice looking to play off of each other, forcing back the sledge. They give up admin. Brios just backs off because he's so terrified that if he ends up dying here, he gives a disadvantage to his team.
Yeah, no, I'm here. My bad. I was gonna say, make a point about how the fact I saw that drone and I thought it was gonna be a farce from QoR to see if they could get an easy kill on the admin side, because that's the one thing that M80X have been extremely good at, is just getting these flanks in on QoR and like backstabbing them pretty effectively. That's basically one of the only things they've consistently gone with if it's not been the heavy roam game. And so QoR have to make sure that they're watching their backs at all time, because M80X are going to go for these aggressive plays. They're going to go for these aggressive flanks, and they're working at least on the defensive half here on Consulate.
40 seconds to go. It's been rather quiet here for both QoR and M80. Oh, there's Vert though. Opportunity missed by Rice. That could have been a huge kill to at least slow down QoR and give up that window position. But still having this top floor, having the verticality to stop a plant is going to be massive. And I don't think QoR are aware of this flank by Vic Bands. He catches one to Brios. Franklin responds as well. Beautiful teamwork by M80X. And Vic Bands is just simply floating. Moses at least connects one, but it's just not going to be enough in this round. There's the 5-1 split M80X were hoping for as they take the half dominantly.
QoR cannot buy around in this game, at least on their attacking cap, so they're gonna have to hope that they find something on defense. It's the stronger side on Consulate, and like we mentioned before, QoR do struggle on the attacks, especially because of how fundamentally based they are. They tend to struggle against more aggressive teams, so that's not too surprising. It's the way that they lost those rounds, though. It seemed like there was like little to no coordination from QoR, especially on their roam clears, and they made like no meaningful progression on their attacks, which allowed M80X to go for flanks. It allowed them to go for aggressive plays. It allowed them to play the late round utility really, really well. So clearly M80X were extremely prepared for Consulate. It is QoR's pick, so they knew that QoR, because of how much QoR has played it this season, they knew QoR would probably pick into it. They knew exactly how to counter it, and they've been reading them like a book. So it's now time to see if they can apply that same learning onto the attack as they started off here in round number 7.
It'll be a tough hill to climb, pardon, for QoR. They're at such a large disadvantage. M80X as well, once again, bringing a very aggressive composition. They have Franklin on the Ying, Grim, a lot of info ops here. Deimos can also play below here with those Deathmark trackers. I'm a little concerned here without having the Warden or really any operators to stop something like a Candela push, that this might end up being map point a lot earlier than what either one of us would have probably anticipated, Chaka. I would have imagined more of a back and forth here between QoR, and unless we see again that early shutdown done by QoR Gaming, this could be a pretty rough first start to the best of 3 series here for QoR Gaming, as it looks like for M80X they want to have some emphasis on admin, maybe just a light lurk, as a majority of their team is actually across the map. Maybe they're just going to go for a Ying rush here from this back council window, maybe spotting out that QoR have a lot of their utility actually focused up on the admin side of the map. But it's a big question of, again, will QoR manage to respond to this in time?
Well, they certainly have the utility to do it. It's just about if they're actually going to be in the right positions to commit it on time, because usually some teams, especially for a console office plant, even if they do have the utility, the issue can be sometimes with defenses, it's timing it correctly. But here, M80X go.
There's the first Candela. Franklin not committing this plant once again, trying to burn out some more utility before hopping back in through this window. I don't even think he actually hopped in the first time, but we've got a dedicated stomping round, folks. You want the king? We'll give you the king. As he drones up yellow for his team. This actually could be a massive gap for Stompin to take, and he immediately does so. Now breaking in this barbed wire. If he's able to find a kill in through either con or bathroom, that could be the green light for M80X to hop in. They immediately do so, trying to burn through more utility. Moses almost baiting out that nitro cell, but what a response by Candle. Stompin is kaput in this round, as he is immediately annihilated by Candle, spotting him over through the yellow wall, rotating to shut that down with the lack of presence here over by admin. Everybody is focused on M80X's execute in through the main side of Council. Another Candela popping out. There's only one left for Franklin. In terms of utility, QoR still have quite a lot to stop this plan as well. Inrio playing close as well, and he hasn't been pinged by the Grim. They've got no clue about this. Perfect positioning by Inrio. That's a diffuser control forfeit, and although they try to get vertical down, it might not be enough. Vic Bands will trade, but now Moses underneath, he's got the C4. It goes out just in the nick of time. That leaves only Rice on this rappel. The rest of QoR waking up in this second half as they stop this execute. Moses with the third from down below. The second round confirmed for the defense.
And issue, at least with that office attack, is just going just for the office attack. They had like no pressure applied elsewhere around the map. Of course, the person on yellow died pretty quickly after swinging the top spiral window. And like, because they have like no pressure at inside or any presence made really zero to no sound apart from a couple of the windows being shot, it freed up an opportunity for QoR to go for a flank downstairs to kill the Expo player that could have been directly responsible for killing the person behind the desk. They never knew about him in the first place. So yeah, like while M80X seemed like they were going to go for a straightforward execute, it was anything but, because QoR were extremely prepared for it. They already placed somebody behind the desk earlier, and M80X had no idea that anybody was there, meaning that it was going to be extremely hard to go for that window plant despite getting that frag or that refrag onto the smoke playing behind that desk initially.
QoR now seeing the Ying as a potential operator in the pool for M80X. They'll bring out the Warden this time for the basement. Also benefits to the fact that you have a deployable shield at your disposal, creating a new power position down below. Looks like M80X might once again just try to force the initiative on the bomb site, not really bringing a lot for a top floor clear. No big emphasis on info ops. No one that could really get vert either besides Vic Bands, but he might be prioritizing the Ash charges through the bottom floor just to break these mirror windows. But again, it might be helpful just to have somebody play up above at some point to create some extra pressure in this round. Rather than going for a garage take, though, M80X looking to go through blue instead through this single wall. They can maybe lurk down through tellers with the help of this Montaigne shield and go for a kitchen direct take, and hoping to use these smokes to mask off the vision of QoR. But again, you've got Candle on the Warden, a hard counter to this type of play. If he's in the right place at the right time, this could be a critical fail for M80X once again.
As they keep ready for the flank that's upstairs, like you mentioned in Visa, they can walk this Monty down the hallway at least, just because of how narrow the hallways are. But first, they really need to breach open this wall that the bandit is there. Yeah, that the bandit of Moses is bandit tricking right now, just so they can give themselves more angles to work with. They have the Ash on this side of the map too, so dealing with these mirror windows shouldn't necessarily be an issue for them. But again, they just really need to be watching out for Rival in that flank, and it doesn't seem like they know.
Well, taking the first lead on this defense, Moses looking to spot anybody who's playing off of this shield. Candle taking some damage as well. Again, they don't have a lot really to stop this direct take once Candle is gone. Vic Bands, that's Rival now gone, one of the main flankers you talked about, but there is Brios above on this open hatch, damaging Franklin down to 1 HP. If there was more backup from the first floor, this could be the shield gone in just about the minute mark of this round. But now the fact that he's extremely low, if a C4 is placed by Inrio at just the right time, that could be massive. Aiden on ADS gets punished by Brios, but Rice is there with the trade. The flank is now dealt with, and they can reassess the situation and fight back before this execute in a 3 versus 3. Again, Franklin is still alive, but having to worry about that C4 could be the make or break for QoR to stop match point on their map pick of Conflict. Selma going off after the battery's been dispersed. That's the wall opened up. Stompin looking to challenge this long angle against Candle. Playing passive, trying to stop this map control. It's a game of cat and mouse here, and M80 look to be hitting a lurk from yellow. Rice could maybe coordinate here with Stompin, knowing there's someone stuck in pipes. This could be an easy 1-for-1 gunfight, and the Selma goes off as well. This will force the Warden back, and this could be a freebie here for Rice, but his teammate backs off instead. Warden tucked in the corner, 1 HP. Good kill for Rice. A second followed up by Franklin. That now leaves Moses in a 1v2, and they know his position, but the Montaigne was 1 health. Caught with his pants down. 6 seconds left to go. Stompin's got to take the initiative. He's got to win this gunfight for match point, but there's such little time. It's still at hand, and the King wins it. Match point for M80X off the trade game and coordination.
How does he do that? It's literally about to be 0 seconds. And the thing is that again, like, the Monty was a big issue in that round, applying a lot of pressure over by service side, fluffed it a little bit in a 2v1, but at the end of the day, if you have Stompin in your team, he's gonna clutch it out for you. But I think a thing that we really do need to focus on, at least in that round, like you highlighted before, when it came to that pillar play, it's not just Stompin carrying the round by himself. He did win that 1v1, don't get me wrong. But M80X just played really well off of each other. Even though they were in a 3v3, those are in it. It was very late on time, and they're probably very stressed by that moment. They didn't really look stressed. They still worked the picks very calmly, isolating 1v1 engagements, forcing QoR to move by using utilities such as the Selmas, not only on the pillar wall from bottom spiral in that long hallway, but also from server side as well, looking at the wall that looks straight into cafeteria. So awesome stuff from M80X to not only win that 1v1 with Stompin having an amazing game, but also to just be very calm in the mid to late round, working the picks really, really well.
I think the big emphasis there had to be team play for M80X. Although they weren't initially, just joined together in a big group of 3, pushing off the Montaigne, they were still gathering a lot of info with that shield. They were isolating gunfights in that 3 versus 3 and taking aggressive peeks when needed to. It looked a little rough when you had that Mozzie roaming up above. That was Brios finding 2 different kills in that round, but still, M80X claw back and win with just under a second left with a pistol 1-for-1 gunfight by Stompin. One of the top fraggers on this team from map 1. He's tied up almost literally with Vic Bands, except he's got a couple more assists than the Ash. Nitrocell, a little too far there, so the Ash seems to be rather comfortable on their camera gathering info. It's a piano defense here for QoR Gaming. They don't want to reattempt this basement floor with the emphasis of the Monty that we just saw last round. And so far, M80X for the first time taking a rather slow approach to this clear, it seems.
You also have a bunch of info on site and off site for QoR. Mostly the main thing that hits me is the fact that they're prepping to see if maybe QoR, or not QoR, but M80X will go a little bit more direct for this take. Because that's what sometimes some teams do that. Like they don't really go for a full clear up top. Maybe they do a half clear over by meeting, which M80X are already starting that process over by the admin side of the map, opening up key walls in order to give themselves more longer lines of sight to make this defense more uncomfortable for QoR.
M80 now, top spiral and admin control. They spot this isolated defender just outside a bathroom, breaking this jammer to get more info, pushing back the defense, but they've wasted a lot of time on this top floor. M80X will need to win this gunfight, but wow, Brioche just smokes Aiden. Beautiful pre-fire with the SMG-11 stomping here to take his place, but he's a little more concerned about the rest of his team. QoR, once again, a resurgence here on this roam. M80 finally get on the board, but it's only Vic Bands. The rest of his teammates now dropped. Pistol out, but it's not going to be a repeat of last round. QoR will hold strong on this top floor, and they will deny map 2 for just a round longer.
Messy round, at least for the side of M80X, when it came to the top floor clear. It seemed like at the end they did want it to commit to a full top floor clear, and they kind of just split themselves up to try and take isolated gunfights, which QoR were extremely prepared for, being in really good spots in order to stop the individuals from being so powerful for M80X. And Yeah, I mean, they at least get themselves around closer to potentially matching OT, but they're still 3 rounds away. M80X have a lot of opportunities to mess things up, but I wouldn't really depend on how many opportunities you have to mess things up. Just kind of like close it out right here, right now.
Gotta say, I think chat might be right here, guys. I think we need more stomping. It's come to my attention that we may just need to see a little more stomping. I don't want to say we need a full stomping round, but this guy's been working miracles, it seems, on the attack, and now we've got something crazy here for M80X. I would say they might want to go for another council execute, but that didn't really work out for them. They've got the Amaru for some sort of fast play. Could maybe get a lurk perhaps somewhere else, or could be a possible early admin push in from Rice. A lot of different opportunities you can use with the Amaru here with these Gara hooks. Maybe even going up yellow early, then dropping with like the shotgun. That is kind of a crazy like idea to go for. But given the fact that M80X have been extremely aggressive on almost all their attacks except for the last one, I am interested in seeing how they're going to actually use the Samaru. Given the fact that Franklin's here already by Con window, I think we already know what it's going to be. Maybe they'll try to threaten Con and Adam at the same time and just hope that Core kind of forget about this back take so Franklin can hop in and plant. That's the only thing I could really see happening right now. But oh no, Rice actually will go up on the roof. So I'm wondering where he's going to drop from. Probably yellow, I would assume.
Could be yellow. Quick 1-2 punch over by yellow, and then you have the window. And I mean, you look at how far back core are set up. There's nobody in small office, just a player over by bathroom, or actually not even by small office, looking down the lamps hall. Candle finds the first opening pick. That's on to Big Bands as the ace. And I'm pretty sure he was just pushing on the opposite side of the map. So far, M80X kind of look a little bit worse for wear after they lost their only hard breach, with Moses finding a second. That's now Aiden down. And we're already in a 5v3 while M80X still sit on match point.
Well, they struggled a lot with this bomb site in the past. M80X end up losing this round. It's not the worst case scenario for them. They've got a couple more rounds to recover with. Bit of breathing room against Core, but it seems like they've finally gotten the hang of things. They've gotten the hang of this aggression, and they're matching it so damn well. The triple trade against Stompin'. They were not letting this guy enter through the window without a fight, and they give it to him face forward. Rice entering in with this flash, but the Vulcan pack will burst in his face. Damage dealt to Moses, but once again, the trade from Brios. And it's now a third for the Goyo. Great job from Brios, flatlining this attack. 2 rounds away from overtime. It's possible, Chaka. But again, M80, they still have match point, and they still have the advantage.
Like M80X want to take a timeout, and I don't blame them. I think that in the past few rounds that we've seen Core play, the one thing that has been sticking out to me is how well they've been playing off of each other closer together for trades that happened in the round previous to the one that we just saw when they were just on the top floor, playing really, really close together in that top floor extension, denying the individual players from M80X. And that happened again just there. Again, playing extremely close together. M80X try to go for aggressive individual plays, and Core aren't giving that to them. So it doesn't surprise me that M80X want to take a timeout right now just to get things settled and sorted, because I can imagine that, you know, comms might be hectic, that players just aren't working with each other, and that's going to give Core easier access to come back in this game.
They also know the next 2 bomb sites available to Core most likely will probably be Garage, and then either followed up by Piano or Tellers, given the fact that Council is now locked in till we see infinite overtime if that happens. And there were a couple of mistakes, you know, not a lot of info for that potential of a flank, which is what almost saved Core in that last basement floor. They even might just go for a completely new attacking lineup. I mean, you see Aiden highlighting the Ram. That is going to obviously give away the idea of wanting to play for Vert. Going to maybe want to clear out that roam extension rather than possibly going for a direct take with that shield, since again, it came down to a literal 1v1 against the King, 1 second on the board, and they narrowly win that gunfight. And yeah, it looks like we're going to have a full top to bottom roam clear against this Garage defense by Core, where their lineup doesn't really seem to be that concerned about, again, that smoke plant, since they probably figured, well, we almost countered it. They'll most likely go for something else after that timeout to talk things through.
We'll just have to see here for M80X. They're not sticking the Monty, which was probably a big win condition for M80X, despite Monty being on such low HP towards the end of that round, being on 1 HP, and then sacrificing himself to give Stop It a chance to clutch a 1v1. I see how it is. And so this time around, it seems fairly straightforward. They want to go for vertical play. Like you highlighted a couple rounds earlier, vertical play is extremely important on basement, especially over by the garage area when it comes to displacing really extremely important power positions, like behind the red car, for example, by pillar, on the platform in garage, right where Inrio is standing. Those are pretty important power positions that you really need to displace in order to have an easy time walking in to get a plant down.
Seems like M80X there once again using this info, spotting a gap for core perhaps. Last time we saw a heavy roam clear done by M80X, it was against their piano defense for core. And they were kind of slow at entering into the building. They went for an admin overtake. This time, it seems to be a very heavy emphasis on council and yellow. So they'll get into the building a lot faster, and they already have info on this extension on the first floor. Oh, there's no way he gets misdroned. Surely not. He checks around the second time, and that's now confirmation. He's also pinged by the Deathmark tracker. But there's Candle. Rice is gone. There's still vert potential with those boogie drones, but it'll be a lot slower. And Rice, being one of the more consistent players in M80X, now that he's off the board, is massive. And the Banshee slowing down Stompin', giving away his position, allowing Brios an easy one-for-one gunfight. It seems like the problems core faced of being disjointed on their attacks has now resurfaced once M80X have transitioned onto this second half. They almost spot a freebie on the Malusi, but Candle through the floor kills Aiden, and Franklin can't trade his teammate. Thank God he was 1 HP, though. So Vic fans can recover at least a moment here for M80X, but now it's a 4v2, and Core Gaming have given up this roam and will play off of the site for the man advantage, except for Brios, who will linger Spiral.
I just want to know if they know about this, because it doesn't seem like M80X have bad info. It's again, they're just playing extremely disjointed. They finally get the top floor control, but what vert do you have apart from using Exothermics, which I'm pretty sure M80X don't want to lose. Are you just standing there, Moses?
Hello? All right. Moses maybe alt-tabbed, celebrating the round a little early, or maybe he got bugged. He typed in all chat, bro, so that could have been an issue. Oh, yeah, no indicator. Well, that just sucks. I was like, Moses is better than that. He knows better. That's now the main breach opened up. And a free kill. Maybe the script is favoring M80X on this round, granting them a free kill. Vulcan Pack goes off a little early, too, so if they want to go from Yellow Door, they most certainly can. Rios now falling off this roam, deeming the flank dangerous, but Franklin doesn't spot Rival's head, so he's punished. And Inrio closes out the round for his team, despite the small hiccup of not having the indicator of that grenade. The rest of Core Gaming, they're playing farther back. They're holding these angles that no one can really pressure from besides the open breach, giving a very advantageous gunfight for Core. And they now bring us one round away from infinite overtime.
And that's just probably a round to forget for M80X, if I'm going to be extremely blunt here, because, like, again, it's an issue of, like, they're just giving up ones here to Core, which they're just going to eat that up. Core are a pretty good team when it comes to mechanics, gun skill. They can play aggressive if they really, really want to. They just choose to play extremely passive just because that's how Cohen likes to coach Core. They like to be very strategical. That's how they like to play. And in that round, it didn't really seem like M80X had issues with information because they knew where these players were. They just didn't really have a good plan around clearing them out together on the top floor. And that's the issue. They didn't clear them out together. That's what they need to start doing at least in this round, because if they go to OT, Core have all the momentum because now they're going to be playing defense first on cons, in OT.
One more round in regulation, or else we'll need to have a couple more in infinite overtime. Aiden now for the first time bringing out the Finka. Interestingly enough, one of my personal favorite ops on the attack, in my opinion. That's when I started playing the game. It was back in Operation White Noise, Operation Chimera, or Operation Outbreak, one of the best game modes of all time.
Oh, you're one of those.
In Rainbow Six Siege history. Oh, yeah. I was back on Xbox. I originated from Xbox. That's my bread and butter right there. Where I even started casting, a little fun fact. But now we see the Xbox boys on the PC. Myself getting to cast them for the Crucible. And once again, the potential of M80X finding a huge upset for their opponent's map pick of Consulate. It's again a heavy extension up above, which for the past like 4 rounds, it seems, I've sounded like a broken record. They have struggled with clearing out Core's defense. Maybe the extra set of nades could be helpful, and the Finka I highlighted so much, reminiscing on the past, will bring us to the present of an entry kill and maybe the future of M80's hopes going to the grand finals against JJ and Co. That is the Capcan gone. You still got to worry about those traps, but oh, the Bravacam hacking some util in sight. Maybe they'll spot some Capcans as well, but for the meantime, I think it was just on that Banshee. Still forcing some utility to be traded off between Core Gaming and M80X, as they have a lot of info on the site, noticing that it's mostly vacant besides this vert presence here by Core Gaming. Maybe that could give them the rally call just to book it into sight, try to avoid some of this vert and stick that plant. But I think for the most part, Core have a lot of their corners covered here, it seems.
Yep. Rotating the lobby player, or at least rotating rival to lounge, at the very least will help stop this attack over by the lobby side, because that's where the ace is. And that's where when you mentioned a direct take from M80X, this is what I was thinking about. Ace opening up the X wall to walk right on in, and you have somebody here in lounge to stop it.
Ooh, opportunity missed there by Franklin. Up and low on HP, but he's looking to hunt down this vert, and he seizes the opportunity with a pistol, giving the rally call for his team to hop in and plant. Traded by rival, but there's the lurk from Vic Band. It's actually a cut angle. He doesn't even need to enter the building, and the rest of this vert is just useless. They can't spot Rice, and now it's only Inrio, one of the main support players for this team, in a 1 versus 3 post plant. 0 info to work off of. Aiden early celebrating this map victory, as the hopes for Core Gaming seem dire. And there it is from Rice. The final kill confirmed and the map solidified in regulation for M80X. They go to Border with high hopes of taking this series, but so far, it's just 1-0.
And despite the issues that M80 faced when it came to their early round attacks, or at least the attacks that happened earlier on, they still found a way to clutch it out in the end, finding extremely easy to spot gaps there against the Core defense. When Stompin found that kill inside of the site, it opened up a plethora of options for M80X to work with, planting right where the vertical player was killed. That allowed M80X to get a plant down for free. And none of the other vertical, like you mentioned, really mattered in the end. Sure, M80X had a lot of issues with their coordination and playing off of each other, but I think at least when it came to playing on that tertiary site, they had an easier time working that execute than they've had in the previous rounds.
M80X, after the timeout, it still looked a little rough, but eventually, when it mattered most, they deny infinite overtime, they deny the recovery from Core Gaming and take their opponent's map of Consulate 7-5. We'll go to a quick break and bring back the desk to get their thoughts and opinions on what we just saw.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as the map choice of core being Consulate has fallen into the back pocket of the console kids. My name is CDabs. I'm joined by the analysts and Yali. We started off saying core is such a good fundamental team, but it felt like they were just a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, I went off right at the beginning predicting that if they have good fundamentals, they might do well on a map like Consulate where fundamentals are a necessity, but M80X has the X factor, whereas core might just be missing it. Like Aiden said in the very beginning interview, if Candle doesn't put up numbers, if he doesn't get 20 kills, then they lose, and unfortunately during this map that was not Candle's onus. Brios did his best to fulfill that role, but it was too little too late, as ultimately the map fell to Stompin 7-5.
Well, Mason, we know that Brios is a good player, and we've seen him take over games on rosters such as Dilemma through Element, even all the way back to the CL days, but you just have to think a lot of pressure is on Candle.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the pressure's on the entire roster to show up, because the biggest issue I've noticed with core in kind of their recent struggles has been the fact that they can only really activate one player at a time. They don't have the ability to activate each other as an entire roster, and that's where core falls short in a lot of these games, is simply the gunplay. They have the brains, they have the minds, they have the experience to get the job done. They've got Cohen, who's a great coach in the background, same with Moses, who's a solid IGL. But where they fall and where they lack very often in almost every game that I've seen in the last month or so from core is simple gunplay.
It almost feels like core are a peanut butter sandwich. There's nothing wrong with a peanut butter sandwich. If you're really hungry, it's fine. But when you start adding a little bit extra to it, that's where, it gets a lot better. When we talk about a roster, Yali, like M80X,
I didn't think
they have
you were
two.
Going there. I thought you were going to say they're like allergic to getting kills or something.
I thought about it for a second, but
yeah,
we're going to stick with that. But with M80X, when you have Stompin as well as Aiden Tax being able to step up, it's having two pieces. It's just so much better to watch.
Yeah, I think that's what M80X stands for. X is for the X factor. You said it. They've got two of them. I don't have the exact numbers pulled up at this moment, but both of those players in that last round, specifically Aiden Tax and, of course, the king himself, Stompin, absolutely going off during that. Stompin, I believe, ultimately ending up as the top frag MVP. And yeah, obviously it's Siege, it's a strategic game, and M80X brings that to the table. But I like to say it's not a first-person thinker, it's a first-person.
Yeah, and as we move on to the next map, Mason, being Border, you have to say it is looking a lot better for M80X. They looked so much more concise in just making decisions, as well as being able to just overall take care of the tempo and adjust it to how they need. And on a map like Border, that is so important.
Yeah, pace of play is all what Border is about, because it's a smaller map. It's a lot about those fast rotations. How do you want to take the map? When do you go east? Do you go CCTV? What are the critical points of control and pressure? And ultimately, I think the biggest X factor that has been hidden by M80 is the fact that they've never shown this map. We've never seen them play Border. They pull out in semifinals. What do core have on them? Knowledge-wise, maybe an old scrim, if that exists. Maybe they've got some friends that have scrimmed them and are scrambling to figure out, okay, how can we beat them here on Border? Because when you look at it just at a face level, M80X clearly were prepared. They pick into this map. This is a map that they've been wanting to go to for probably quite a long time, and I can't wait to see what they bring out.
And with that, Border is ready, so we'll see if Stompin and his crew are going to be able to earn their crown and potentially fight in the grand finals. Chaka, fellow, take it away.
Thank you once again, Connor. It all comes down to this, Chaka. Map number 2, potentially our final map of this series. M80X. Big shoes to fill, but they did such a great job on their opponent's map pick of Consulate, where honestly both of them struggled a lot on the attack. Now turning over into a new leaf of Border, where this is one of the most attacker-sided maps in the current competitive pool. I'm wondering if this could alleviate some of the problems that both core and M80X also had of stalling, not getting map control, not finding successful entries. Or will this just be another complete stomp from M80X, not only on their defense, but now the attack as well, as this is their map pick, and this could be a sleeper pick for them as they haven't gone here yet in Crucible.
You say that, and then there are plenty of opportunities for the defense to stall against the attack, especially if the defense plays really, really aggressively. So that's something to watch out for, because we've mentioned a lot of times QoR are a pretty slow team. They tend to slow down in the mid to late round when they face a lot of opposition, and M80X are more than happy to give that to them. We saw that on Consulate, and now that they're coming onto Border, like Mason said on the desk, this is not a map that M80X play a lot. There's not a lot of VOD to review of M80X. This is actually one of their most banned maps from the moment that the Element 4 Swiss stage started, when they were banned coast, to now in their time in Crucible. So this is a big question mark for QoR to kind of let this map through, or rather for M80X to pick it, because QoR might not have expected M80X to pick into Border, and they have. So it's now all up to the adaptability that QoR has in order to really play this map against M80X.
Well, starting on the most well-known bomb site of this map, Armory and Lockers. OSA lineup here for M80X, interestingly enough. No emphasis on a direct shield op like you would normally see of a Montane or a Blitz, for example. Of course, OSA is still a shield op, just not in the conventional way. You use her Talon shields more as a cutoff angle, but still being a good wedge to enter into the bomb site. This could maybe detail a potential plant over by Archives rather than a Lockers execute. But for the most part, you still want to get some pressure over by either top east, maybe someone going over by CCTV. I imagine a majority of the map will still need to be cleared out by M80X, even if they want to go for a direct take. But now implementing the Blitz, they could honestly go either way. If they see this east extension, maybe they'll try to utilize the Blitz with the help of some nades or flashes just to barrel their way in and get that early aggressive pick, that tempo setter for the round. And once again, with this map being a lot more attacker sided, I would imagine we see more than 3 attacking round wins in the course of a 12-round regulation series. I imagine it'll be a lot more than that this case around, Chaka.
That certainly happened. I will say this is a very interesting setup already from QoR. We didn't really get to talk about the operator bans, but I'll start us off by saying we have an Azami. Like I think that's a really big talking point. Azami, now present on the defensive lineup here for QoR, and instead of setting her up in what you would commonly see over by security, they put her by east. And that's exactly where M80X are starting off their attack, is over by east, but mainly centering it around this Archives take.
Ooh, backs away in time, maybe hearing the Velcro rip of that C4. And again, being on the Finca, you have the Adrenaline Surge, you can heal yourself back up and replenish some of that lost HP from the explosive blast. You've got this cutoff established here by Rice. So far, the Azami not too concerned about it, though, being backed up by Candle, trading blows with Rice. These smoke grenades now being tossed out as well, obscuring the vision of the defense. And now this plant going down. Not too sure if QoR are aware of this. They find the entry kill, but the rest of M80X explosive with taking site control. Rice just creeps in from 90. Who the hell knew about this? I surely didn't, as he's downed and finished off by Brios with the help of his teammate. 2 versus 2. Adrenaline Surge left in the pocket of Vic Bands. He could heal up Franklin, leave him a little more agile, a little more healthy for this next engagement, and he does so the second he gets that opportunity. But great use of the Kiba barrier, cutting off this Archives window. Rival will stick to defuse coverage here from the Azami, but he won't need it! Damn good shot landed, but Brios with the second coverage is required as Rival resticks the defuse, and they've got just enough time to save the round against the rush.
Blinky, you'll miss it. That was an extremely quick round from M80X. They went for a really quick execute over by Archive side, and then went for some little backstabs over by security, with Rice just sneaking into security because QoR were so busy focusing on a retake. But the one thing that really saved QoR in that round was the ample amount of explosive that they had. Not only did they have the utility for the late round to cut off the windows, but the explosive utility was pretty important in disabling the Talon shields that M80X needed to protect themselves in the post plant. They have no more protection in the post plant once the Talon shield is down, and that gives QoR an easier opportunity to go for that retake, which they did.
Once again, utilizing the OSA. Once again, as you mentioned, though, QoR have the right tools for the job to shut down those cutoff angles. This time, though, I imagine the shield is going to be more used as a way just to play above by top east if there's another early extension like we saw last round. You can have that talent shield there to shut it down, maybe even some flank watch as well, given the fact that you only have 2 ways of retaking the top floor if you fall off through one of the many open hatches. That's metal stairs that we just saw from our lovely observer, and east stairs, which is where the Azami was extending previously and where the Osa mainly was, but more so closer towards the bomb site of Archives last time. Heavy roam, emphasis by core. They've got a player CC, another one over in lockers. The potential of early aggression is there, forcing M80X to clear out the entirety of this top floor, hoping to waste as much time as humanly possible. As like we talked about earlier, both Core and M80X on their attack struggled a lot with Consulate when it came to finding that first entry point on the map and clearing out the roamers around those extension points.
Doing it together as a team as well and giving up isolated picks is one thing that we also talked about, because the defense on both teams actually played really well around crossfires. And it's really strange how that works. You play really well around crossfires on your defense, but then on your attack, you're extremely separated, giving up isolated opportunities for the defense to take advantage of.
No
against
way.
you. Oh my God. Rival went for a run out and he dies almost immediately. That's the warning down on the top floor, which gives bigger emphasis on these flashes that's in the back pocket of AD.
And it seems like Stompin is just outside of sight. Do the defense know about this? I'm not quite sure. Candle injured off screen as well. I think Stompin is just waiting for Inro to pop his head around this half wall, looking for a free kill. He hears the mute crouching around the 3X. Really hard to not hear him there. Finkabusa try to revive the down teammate, but Aiden as well shuts down Moses as he finishes off Vic Bands. There's the mute spotted. Great patience by Stompin to confirm that kill. Once again, Aiden above on the Nomad, doing his job, holding top east, trading his teammates when required to. And now this forces Candle in an awkward position. They know he's above on the hatch, but wow, beautiful spray down on Aiden. That's now your Nomad gone. But regardless of that, the other 3 attackers playing in sight. They've got coverage, but Candle once again, another 1-for-1 given to him. But does he have info about Stompin and Rice? He expects one to be by passport, but it's actually customs. No one playing behind this desk, wasting time for Candle. The dead drone as well being watched. And Stompin from Workshop, the final kill for the round. M80X now equalize us.
Is it just me, or was that like hold over by? There was like no hold over by East Stairs from Core Games.
Yeah,
they
I think
kind
they
of gave
spotted
that
that
up
gap.
for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not even only just that, but nobody in Workshop neither. Like you mentioned earlier on in that round, yeah, it was a heavy extension, but mainly across the top floor, and there was no vertical setup to like stop the Workshop walk in, and nobody set up either. By I think it's not secondary, whatever that like side room next to customs is. There's nobody like there neither to like watch the walk down East Stairs, so it gives M80 a perfect opportunity to exploit like sight really easily, because Core just kind of gave up the immediate space around it for free.
You're talking about passport with double barricade right there?
That's the one call I always forget.
All good.
It makes me angry.
All
Not
good.
really.
It happens.
Yeah. It does.
You know what call I'm never gonna forget? Catering. Yep.
Yeah.
We just talked about that last night. I'm glad you remembered. The map we just saw earlier, that's where the call out of catering originates from on Consulate, but we'll focus back on the matchup at hand, back on border. It's Bathroom and Tellers for the second time by Core Gaming. You highlighted it very well. The lack of vert. So with no one playing directly in Workshop, M80X spotted that huge gap and just took full advantage of it. That allowed Stompin to get a very easy kill and get site control for the rest of his teammates as they were still clearing out that top floor rather effectively. Again, Aiden, the trade on his teammate of Vic Bands, I think it was by Catwalk, then doubling down by pushing into the building, finding a second kill, and then giving info as to where Candle was on that top floor. If not for Candle, it might have been Brios there in that round. I can't recall. No, it was Candle. I was right the first time. Regardless of that, they now reintroduce the shield into this round. Not the Osa, but this time it'll be the Blitz instead. Probably to help clear out this east extension as they Ash Charge open this barricade, now detecting the Azami's presence. Aiden, however, not going to jump the gun. He's going to wait on Rice. He's going to wait on his team to assist him when it comes to breaking down this Kiba barrier. And then he'll make that final call. Even the cutoff to watch for the flank, but Candle still kills Aiden. Thankfully, there's the trade. And 2 other attackers are instantly down to defenders. My mistake. Rice gets the finisher. Moses, not yet confirmed in this round, but essentially a 4 versus 2. And there it is. Selma deployed in a wall bang through that break room wall. Gets the confirmation by Franklin. Now Brios is forced to fall off without fighting back, as he's worried that if his teammate in sight is isolated, it could be an easy 4v1 post-plant. History would literally repeat itself. As we just saw this last round, there's some info for QoR to work off of, but not the right positions to shut down M80X as of right now. Maybe they're hoping that they jump the gun on this execute and give away early 1-for-1s, but it looks like M80X are playing this extremely passive. The main wall opened up. Franklin sticking this defuse, forcing a retake. But Rice caught by surprise. That now puts us in a 3 versus 2 rather than 4 on 2. But Stompin has the cut. Waiting patiently. Yellow ping to detect the frost, but Brios just better from that position. The king is gone, but they've got the window repel. Maybe as a cutoff. Actually, no. As of right now, they're playing passive rather than aggro. Maybe waiting on Franklin to be that first contact. That could be a mistake as Rice is injured, but Vic Bands, he's not in the window. He's up above. He's got a better angle by Catwalk. And M80X, despite losing some bodies on the post plant, they still get site control. They still get this plant down. And Vic Band's right place at the right time closes it out. And that's now flawless attacks for the bathroom defense.
And again, M80X really just know how to play the trades even properly. They did it really well over by East Side. That was a really big win condition for M80X, not just spotting the gap over by Workshop like they did in the round previous, when they found that massive gap to exploit the site that QoR kind of like gave up for free really on bathrooms and tellers. They played the trade game really well with these stairs that then allowed them to really, well, they had a man advantage, but then it allowed them to then go for an easy plant in tellers just by Selma opening up that single wall on bottom east and just walking into the desk. Yeah, you still have somebody over by, believe it was by customs, yes. But because they opened the wall, you can just like walk on in and there's no real angle to exploit there for QoR. But closer in the end there from them, but still extremely well executed from M80X.
At the end of the day as well, M80X, although they might not have been playing trades that effectively, they were wasting a lot of time being more passive, kind of forcing the initiative of QoR Gaming in that 2 versus 4, and they had bodies to spare. So giving that time for Vic Bands to play up above, I don't know why the hell I thought he was on that main window, but either way, like I said during the round call, right place, right time, and with QoR not having a lot of seconds to recover from that catwalk player, it's still a round win in the books from M80X. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. We go back to Armory Lockers this time. It's Montaigne on the board for Franklin, looking to take the charge in this round, pushing up through top east already with the help of these early round drones. Flank watch now secured for Aiden with the help of these Nomad launchers, the air jabs. I don't know why I blanked on that gadget. And now they might be looking to hunt down Moses, since almost every single defensive round they've had this extension over by break room, but this time there's a mirror window to assist the castle. C4 tossed out rather early, does a lot of damage to Franklin, but he still persists. He'll remain alive in this round to gather more info and maybe create space with the help of this shield.
Also still, at least have one flash. There's not really a lot of opportunities though, or a lot of utility in the back pocket of M80X to further break down its defense. But it seems like they're kind of hitting themselves up against a brick wall. Still haven't cleared over by security, and they've lost 2 people in the process, but they're still gonna get this plant down.
Once again, spotting the gap, noticing almost everyone is off the damn site, and Stompin takes full control of this round. Franklin as well, because he's alive. Getting this plant down, he can provide so much info. Looks to get aggro against this Malusi, and she misses! Perfect team play for Rice as well. Franklin baiting for the ace. And now that leaves Moses in the worst position possible, facing off in a Montaigne and a teammate with an active gun right beside him. Wasting so much time. Full extension on the shield, and Rice closes it out. 3 attacking round wins in a row. If it wasn't for the almost flawless retake by QoR Gaming, this could have been a flawless first half for M80X.
Literally just using the Monty to clear space inside of the site, despite having people over by security. I thought like M80X were going to struggle a little bit more, but like you highlighted, no presence inside of the site. And what's the biggest thing that we've been seeing the past few rounds from QoR is that they've just been leaving up huge gaps. And it's like close, it's either close to the site or it's on site. And that gives M80X perfect opportunity, ample opportunity to exploit them and just go for like quick and easy executes, because M80X actually know how to gather information and use things like, well, their drones, but also just the Monty.
It seems like for M80X, they're using their initial attack more as a diversion. That way they allow their lurk players like Stompin, for example, to spot these massive gaps. I mean, we saw it back in round number 2, right? You highlighted it, Chaka, that there was just no one in Workshop. Despite this very like elaborate roam, no one's playing for fall off points to adjust to a potential, retake like we saw back in that previous round. They had no vert to stop a Workshop clear like we had in round number 2, and they fully capitalize on that, the offense. So again, QoR spotting or being punished by these gaps, it begs the question, are they going to be a little more bunker focused in these next 2 defensive rounds? Will they play for more fast rotates, or are they going to try to match the tempo once again by or up against M80X just to be punished? Well, now they're really emphasizing the vert. I mean, look at Inrio, goddamn, he's got everything on watch from the back of Workshop here from top archives. Even the hatch opened up as well. It does look like they're focusing a lot less on general map control and instead just bunkering up in a couple locations above the bomb site just to really force M80X to clear out some of these power positions. And then if they're able to do that, they can fall off and play in the bomb site. That could be a really big problem though, because again, if you give up this top floor, all that vert now goes into the advantage of M80X, and they could use that to, of course, go for a much easier execute, having all these angles to their advantage.
I really like the utility that M80X brought this round. They've been sticking the Blitz in a couple of rounds, but also they brought the Ying for the very first time in their attacks, and that can be used to go for like mini executes. Like you mentioned, it's not just like they don't really have to like sit here and like go for like these really extensive clears up top. But what they could do is literally just start a Ying Candela up top and go for a quick plant like they have been doing, because they've been finding really big gaps on site because QoR just don't really play it at all. So we'll see how that works for M80X as they start to prep for this top floor take.
Maybe using the Blitz to help clear out this top floor. Interesting. It's going to be a bathroom take here. The wall being soft, the sledge can open this up. Spotting the player turned around, but Rice shoots him. Little trigger happy there for Rice, and that could be a huge punishable play for QoR as they find 2 kills back to back after the unfortunate team kill. The Candela goes off, but Franklin's already dead. No one to play off of that flash. Now it leaves Stompin and Aiden essentially across the map from each other, literally across from the map from each other. So Stompin will be forced to rotate to help this Blitz clear out the top floor. A catastrophic execute capitalized on by QoR Gaming for their top floor verticality. Ash charge going off, the Blitz to follow suit. They know both Stompin and Aiden are isolated, but he still gets this map control. But Brios, quick on the trigger, gets rid of the Ash. Now that leaves only Aiden, who loses the fight to Inrio. Finally, after a timeout and a new site being picked by QoR, they bring themselves back on the board to only be behind a single round against M80X.
Yeah, that time they actually played around the vertical. That time actually having it established, and it didn't really give many opportunities for M80X to go for that quick plant that they usually like to go for, that they have been going for. They tried to utilize the Candelas over by the bus window, and that didn't really affect anything. None of the Ying Candelas actually hit the Mira, and by the time she threw her last Ying Candela, or by the time he threw the last Ying Candela, he died. And so there was really not much opportunity for the Ying to be useful in that round when it came to trying to disrupt the flow on that top floor for QoR.
Seems like QoR have cracked the code against M80's attacks. Not overcomplicating their border extension, sticking to 1 or 2 locations on the map, forcing M80X to go for a more direct take when QoR are prepared for it with the verticality, with the team play. Multiple angles covered, and also denying the Ying and Blitz from really getting any headway in that round as well. The 2 big impactful operators that M80X could have used. Now for like the 6th time in a row, I think M80X locking in a new shield. It'll be Montaigne once again. I think almost everyone having like a clean 2-for-2 pick with the 3 shields of Osa, Monty, and Blitz, funnily enough. And now QoR, once again, they actually have a very similar extension to what we had last time, and they are leaving the site kind of vacant. So if M80X once again have good info early around, maybe they just push in from there, but it seems like their diffuse player of Franklin is playing from top east rather than archives. So it'll be some early info to gather first and foremost, and then they can think about this execute, but if they're more concerned about clearing out office, they could easily do that with the Monty rather than just hitting site initially.
You also have the Ace too, so those summons can be used to open up the break room wall in order to make going for the security plot here from 88 highlighted. But yeah, Core aren't really playing aggressively apart from just one player, Candle, playing next to the triple wall by Coffin. And so at the moment, it's all gone quiet here for M80X, who are just sneaking into this hallway.
First castle barricade gone, but a second one will allow Stompin to maybe walk in through office, but he's concerned about this Mira. Not aware if someone's playing off it, but he would be correct about his initial worries. It's going to be the Castle of Moses. His teammate of Candle right beside him by what's called the Canadian Wall. Inside of offices, they'll begin to clear out this utility. Magnet to catch a smoke. Here comes the Frost, rather aggressive. Candle good for one. The hit gets a second, almost 3 in a row. But Core smoking M80X's pack. It's only Stompin left alive as the power play from Core is enough to silence them. And it looks like we'll see a tied off half after this technical or tactical timeout, I should say. InReal with the final hop out. Core Gaming refusing M80X from entering the building will now tie us off going into the 7th.
And I don't think M80X had like info on Candle that whole entire round. They had like a general idea. Stompin looked like he wanted to sneak down the hallway, but like you highlighted, the mirror window wouldn't allow him to do so. And that's also apart from like the Selmas. M80 didn't really have a quick way to deal with the mirror window to go for that mini execute where Candle was playing. I usually like to call that Coffin where he was playing. And he's able to just get aggressive because M80X just don't have like consistent info on where he's at all times, nor nobody to really act off of it. So really good play from Candle to get that quick fire 2K, not only on the player hanging out by the radio window, but also killing the Monty in the process. A huge win condition from MX just taking off swiftly, like with no warning.
We'll see if it's another 3-3 half. I mean, it was down to the wire back in map number 1. A completely different lineup here for M80X as well. Stomping on the dock. You almost rarely see this, but to be fair, if you're expecting a lot of utility like grenades, for example, to clear you out from somewhere like CCTV, it kind of makes sense. You can overheal yourself. I mean, Capitao used to be really common on this map. Not a bad idea. I'm personally a big fan of Doc, but sometimes there are just better options to bring utility-wise, given the fact that this is a more utility-focused game nowadays than it used to be back during the Fragger meta. But Core Gaming, they got 4 people rushing in from the Archives doorway. We might just see a fast execute the help of these RU projectors, the EMPs, which you can also use to shut down nitro cells if those are tossed out. Yeah, it's going to be a direct rush here for Core Gaming. Lots of LOSs covered because of these RU projectors. Brios, the initial entry, creating so much space for his team, but the C4 not denied from the EMP. It's mistimed, and the round immediately halts for Core Gaming. The Sense projector disappears. Core Gaming, realizing the gravity of this situation, are trying to scrap back some sort of refrag from this Archives window. But no one looking to tussle. M80X know they've got this round in the bag, so long as they don't toss bodies. Desperation now for Core Gaming as they're looking to recover with the help of this info.
Not only the info through the drones, you also have the info through the Grimbees as well that'll help you to take the player over by Archives. But without much utility or actually much control around the map, it's going to be pretty hard to work off these Grimbees.
Well, here comes the info here for Franklin. Being detected, but once again, there's really no one to punish him. No one playing down below in the vert. No one able to push in from offices because of all that utility. Just seems like a stalemate here for Core because they're out of options at this point. Damage being dealt to both Moses and Candle, but it's Aiden kick-starting the reset here. Run out for Aiden just to really add salt into the wound. Moses trying to hunt down this Warden for being over-aggressive, but he's already backed off away from the radio window. It seems like M80X are looking to start this second half with a bang as they immediately shut down the plant rush with the help of the Montaigne and Sens. Moses left alone, 1 versus 4, barging his way into sight, but M80X just slap him in the face. Tell him GG go next. We going around day with M80X taking back their lead.
And M80X actually did something really, really smart. prior to that execute actually going down, prior to the plant going down, once all of the EMPs were committed, they saved one nitro cell. Just waiting for the EMPs to go by. And then that one nitro cell was used to deny the plant. If M80X, if Core, because they started the plant pretty early, so that's no fault of theirs. In hindsight, it's 2020, so starting the plant a little bit earlier is just a suggestion that I would have had, in order to, or at least somebody shoot out the nitro cell, but they couldn't see it because of the sense projector. There's a lot of contingency issues in that round for Core. It just didn't work out because M80X just were a little bit smarter about saving their utility and waiting to actually use it for the right time, and they did use it at the right time. It was extremely well timed.
Seems like the direct executes for both Core and M80X now kind of failing almost immediately. Yeah. As we saw M80X try that a couple of times for Archives, and really both attempts, it just did not work out successfully with them. Only time they were pretty clear on winning lockers was when they spotted the gap in between Archives and the actual other bomb site of lockers and just kind of took it with full assertion and then planting over by the default spot from lockers. Now we go into M80X's second attack. It'll be Bathroom and Tellers. Not too much changing on their lineup besides now bringing out the Mira and a couple more roam ops like the Azami and the Legion. Franklin actually also playing up above as well, using the Mira to help the extension right above the bomb site over by offices. Core, fairly new lineup as well. I highlighted the Capital last round, which wasn't played, but now he is this time going in for the Bathroom attack. A lot of utility to help facilitate this post-plant position and clear through power spots like these Kibas are using or being used for as of right now. This first initial gunfight could kickstart over by East Stairs. They know Aiden's still playing here, but the Kiva creating a nice line of sight for him. He can comfortably play on this staircase and not really be cut off because the other Kiva is being used on the opposing side over from the office side of the map. So he can comfortably sit here for as long as he wants. The rest of Core Gaming now looking to get this passport wall opened up, as if they can get that top east control. Maybe they could go for a direct plant, but as of right now, they're just still kind of in the setup phase of their attack.
Yeah, but at least they cleared the east player out. Once the passport wall was open, you have your cutoff for that rotation down those steps, like immediately taken care of by Core. So they get east side control. That'll make it easier to then walk down the east stairs, get the single wall open for Tellers, and just go for a plant. But they still have to clear out some of these top floor positions, and they're facing some issues with just even retaining top floor control because of this mirror window.
Mirror window now destroyed, but Franklin not feeling a lot of pressure as of right now. Oh, that cutoff could have been punishing, but it seems like M80X just waltzed past it, ignoring it completely. Rice catches one. Moses attempting this plant, but he's got no more coverage left alive. Here comes the resurgence by M80X, lighting the kill feed up in orange, as now it leaves Brios and Inrio outside of the map, outside of options, or out of options. Now it's only just Inrio. I mean, Core Gaming, again, just cutting corners on that top floor clear. They had zero map control, yet still went for the execute with just passport control, and M80X simply punishing them the minute the plant went down, taking Bathroom and Tellers flawlessly.
It's over-dependency on the cutoffs. I mean, some of the players just were not ready for the quick rotations from M80X once they retook the site. And that's exactly what they did. They just retook. And nobody from Core was ready for it. The guy who was on top east, there was only not the guy on top east, but the guy who was just sitting outside on the break room balcony, on a balcony, just couldn't get the cutoff on the Capcan. There was a 2v1 that happened on east side, on east stairs, and even then he didn't really cut off the player in the hallway. Candle wasn't really ready for the gunfight with the castle coming down that hallway. The passport player wasn't ready for the east side retake because there was just so many people rotating in front of him. Those three players just immediately hounded on the person planting. Nobody was ready in the positions that they were set up in to cut off anything. And it's insane because if they would have just committed to a top floor clear, you wouldn't really have to worry about missing your cutoffs. But that's exactly what happened with Core in that round.
Now it seems like with Core not having a timeout, already using it to stabilize the first half, it seems like the problems that they faced on Consulate with their attacks are now resurfacing on the second half of Border, and M80X looking to continue their early round advantage. Stompin almost going for a run out spawn peak. I think it was mostly used just to place some barbed wire for extra info. He'll now fall off from that almost immediately, playing by the rotate closer towards Fountain. But Again, heavy emphasis on the roam by M80X once again for Core Gaming. Just picking a location on the map and sticking to it with their guns up is their best option. I would love to see a more aggressive playstyle from Core, just trying to isolate these defenders in hopes of winning the early entry and forcing M80X to respect them, but they don't care! They just don't care about this! Stompin wins the first entry, the Blitz, although flashing, Stompin is forced back! They are shaking right now despite having the info, having the power of CCTV control, having the cutoffs. It isn't enough, and because Stompin is Doc, he can simply heal himself up, and they have this entire labyrinth of the top floor. They have these shields, they have the extensions. Finally, somebody is punished for playing far too forward, but it costs so much damage. Moses is half health, Candle is 10 HP, and there's still so much utility that Core are left to deal with. I'm not too sure how much further they can get into this top floor.
Without the ace, is going to be extremely difficult to do so. Like, you think about the office single or archive single wall, they can't open that up. At least the saving grace is that you have the fountain wall completely soft, but you will probably need the ace for that.
Wow.
And Franklin, he goes for a reinforcement mid-round, but he's punished for it by Brios, who hears it on time. And they make it a 4v3 in Core's favor.
Still, the concerns of lack of HP for both the Blitz and Candle on Nomad. Really tough spot to be in. There is someone behind the Blitz as of right now. M80X now falling back. This could be a coordinated effort to take back Metal Stairs. They'll think better of it, though. There is info for Inrio. He'll punish Aiden on the abusive angle through the hatch. Man advantage now doubled down for Core Gaming, and they're hitting the reset. They're thinking, we need info. We need bodies to work this execute. Finally, Candle finished off in a 1v1 by Stompin. He'll play under the hatch, but maybe hearing that drone or the shield, he'll back away. The castle barricade will deter him. Spotting another top metal, he'll just play further back. He knows he's trapped, and we'll just try to waste time because there's only 30 seconds left, and they'll need to push out this dock if they want to go for a site execute. Vic Bands as well across the map. Playing passive, not wanting to lose his life. They spot the smoke grenade, and they give up metal. Stompin's allowed to walk back into sight, but where is Vic Bands to stop this plant? You need to walk through the smoke. You need to shut this down. There's the retake. There's the triple for Stompin, but Brios gets out of sight, and Moses still sticks his plants, and Vic Band is sprinting. He's got no clue where Brios is. He's hunting for him, but the Lion will win it. And Core Gaming finally get on the board in their attacks.
Finally, the bleeding stops for Core because M80X were on a complete run. They were disrespecting Core throughout the whole entire game, not even just on their defenses so far by getting aggressive on the top floor. Once the kill happened onto the ace, Core were very limited in what options they could take on the top floor, but because of some poorly timed individual swings, some poorly timed individual misplays from M80X, it allowed Core to actually get back into the game, retain some top floor control, drop down a hatch, and actually go for a plant and complete it. Yeah, it came down to a 1v1 in the end, but M80X had little to no info on where Core was, not even on the top floor, not around the middle floor. And it allowed Brios to actually win that 1v1 gunfight because the castle was just caught sprinting. I mean, gun up, not ready for the gunfight, but Brios surely was.
You gotta think there for Vic Bands, he might have thought Brios was already up metal. He's looking to retake that top floor as fast as humanly possible, having no info to work off of. Rough spot to be in, but great job by Brios for punishing him there, man. And good job realizing the win con there. You don't want to try to hunt down Stompin despite him being isolated. That could give another free 1-for-1 gunfight. You're losing the goal here of securing that post plant position with maybe a blitz on the board. That could be really devastating. So good on Core for at least being able to play for that objective and finding something on their attacks. I would have been really worried if they would have to win another 3 rounds in a row like we saw back on map 1, but they eventually recover. They find a second wind on their attacks and look a little more hopeful, even punishing Aiden for being a bit too aggressive in this early round. 40 seconds gone away. They almost find this early entry. Stompin as well, looking to seize the opportunity of this round with an entry kill by CCTV, breaks a drone. But once again, they have to worry about this blitz. It could be another fast take with Core Gaming, maybe spotting someone alone and looking to just barrel their way in through this position.
And the thing is that while like Stompin does have somebody playing in armory behind him, Vic is consistently getting on cams. You have protection over by break room, so nobody can just walk right on in and take the gunfight against Stompin. But even if they did, he smokes them. Rival goes down. That's the ace. Again, the only hard creature that core have is gone, so they can't really break down this break room hole. They can't go to office to open up the archive single. It's going to be extremely hard for core to break through anything and go down like a simple hallway because they can't break open any walls to open any extra lines of sight.
That singular kill by Stompin might just win his team the round to secure series point on border. It'll have to be a readjustment by core because, like you mentioned, Chaka, they can't clear out break room, pardon. I think M80X have now realized that core cannot push from here, so they're already rotating to try to shut down the new take that core will try to establish. 2 over by the east side of the map. They're now hopping in the building. They've spotted the site's actually vacant. Brios runs up metal and gets one, but Moses down as he tries to plant. Vic Band's retaking this 90 hallway as well. It's back to a man advantage here for M80X unless the Bravo can pick back up his teammate, but Candle somehow wakes up. There's the top contender M80X we're most worried about, and this gives time for Moses to be recovered. He might just stick this plant, but there's no one playing off him once again. It looks like he'll be gun up instead, hunting down this lone warden, but now he plants, and there's no trade for Candle. No one's covering except Inrio ratting underneath the table. It seems like the Warden was clueless about that position, but either way, Core Gaming, the immediate readjustment and not committing to the CCTV clear is what saved them the round and equalizes us 5-5.
Quick adjustments from core, like you mentioned, to just go by each side, and it didn't really seem like M80X were completely prepared for it. They still had the castle barricade in the main hallway, in the 90 hallway, but they just didn't really. I don't think they knew that core were that like quickly set up by Easters already ready to cut them off as they tried to rotate. And they just spotted the gap inside of archives. That's the one thing that we've been saying consistently has been an issue, at least for both defenses, but a great thing for the attack to exploit is just finding gaps on site because the defense is so committed to whatever extensive hold they're committing to. For M80X, it was just mainly being around like 90 hallway or break room or in lockers, the other site. And they didn't really have a clue that like core were just already in sight, planting, already set up by East, ready to cut them off as they tried to rotate. So really good like gap recognition from core, but that's a consistent issue that both defenses need to be fixing in this series pretty quickly.
Again, it was a good start for M80X in this round, but Core Gaming trying to make up from their past mistakes on map number 1, quick on the adjustment, and even faster on the execute. Once again, 1 round away from someone securing either match or series point in border. That could either lead us to overtime or another 7-5 victory, but either way, a lot more attacking success between both Core Gaming and M80X. We go in the bathroom where a lot of corners were cut here by Core Gaming. They really struggled with clearing out this top floor extension done by M80X. Now they have a lot more of an emphasis on the extension as well, probably hoping to capitalize on that poor clear up above, where Core tried just to barrel their way in through Passport. They plant the diffuser, but it's basically just a trap card set in for them. Core Gaming, based on their drone line out or line ups, they're most likely going to try to clear out this top floor once again, so hopefully for their sake, they will not let history repeat itself once again.
Please don't lose the ace, neither, because they really do need it to break down the defense.
Been first death the past couple of rounds, I think.
Man, because it's kind of getting to a point where like it doesn't. I guess losing the ace for some of these rounds don't matter because Core can win them or M80X have won them even without the ace. But it just makes the round go by very slowly because they're having to walk down hallways, they're having to work picks, waiting for the defense to make a misstep, to make a mistake. And so having the ace here just makes the round go by a lot smoother because you get to open up the walls by Fountain, you get to open up the walls by Archives, etc., etc. You just get to open up all these lines of sight that make it harder for the defense to hold up top and make them retreat a lot quicker.
Core Gaming a little more quiet in this round than previous ones. Still taking their time to gather this intel, starting out closer towards lockers instead. I thought for a moment it was someone solo clearing it, but no. There's actually 3 people over by the CC Valk instead. The Rotero drones as well being sent out, probably to break the castle barricade since they don't have a lot of soft breach that they can, save. They're hoping to keep these, Ash charges, these Selmas up and intact in case the Twitch drones do not spot the Black Mirrors, but one's already been destroyed. So a good start utility-wise for QoR Gaming, and they've now forced off Aiden from this position up by lockers, and the nade! Almost perfectly timed to shut him down, but Rice is still the one to kickstart this round for his team. That's the Ash of Candle gone. Again, someone we've highlighted countless times throughout the series, and now those primary Ash charges to deal with the mirror windows, it's off the board, but again, they still have the Twitch, they still have the Ace, but they no longer have Moses, who's been rather quiet in this game. That's now a second for the castle before being shut down by Inrio as he enters just shy of the building, but it's actually Sledge over from lockers, but a C4 pre-placed from Aiden, perfectly timed and detonated. 4 versus 2 for M80X as bit by bit they take apart the pieces of QoR's attack.
Oh my God!
And win against Stop, and he knew he was behind the mirror window. But at the right moment, he strikes true with the MP7. Series point on the line once again, 6-5. They need one more round, and they'll face off against the man, the myth, the legend, JJ Ballsack in a best of 5.
Just insane. Stoppin wasn't even playing like PC a couple months ago. He's extremely new to mouse and keyboard, by the way. And he's smoking people who have been established at the T2 and T3 scene for years. For years! And I mean, like, again, we see QoR, they have an issue with clearing out the extended hold up top, despite still having the Ace. Didn't open up the fountain wall. So it made it extremely hard to go for, well, they didn't bring a Thatcher, so it was Benedict, right? So they couldn't open up the wall. It made it harder to go for a play up top. The defenders, while they were still upstairs, they felt really, well, they couldn't really rotate because QoR were taking a lot of map control really, really quickly. So it made it harder to rotate. They still had to stay up top, see if they can find some picks. And QoR just made their push extremely one-dimensional because they didn't open up Fountain and whatnot. And that's a really big win condition for them to think about because, again, it just made it really hard to clear that top forward.
It all comes down to this. And now Stompin doubling down on the aggressive roam off the dock, instead playing Oryx. Probably expecting more shield play since we've seen that consistently for both QoR Gaming attacks and M80X's attack as well on border. However, despite not having a shield in this round for QoR, it's still a great gun of that T5 SMG. Very high mobility and a lot of hatches in this map too. So I imagine the Oryx pick will not be totally useless in this round. QoR Gaming as well. Starting yet another early clear from the CCTV side of the map as we go in through lockers and archives for the defense. This was a big problem, though, for M80X, not realizing that there was a mid-round adjustment. They were too late on the response, and that's what costed them the round entirely. Among several bodies, Rice already tagged up, but he gets away from the cutoff. There's now Vert below. Big change here for QoR Gaming, hoping to utilize that skeleton key to force back M80X, but stopping once again. The hard breach is gone for a third time. The opening entry, Chaka. And yet again, QoR Gaming, most likely they're going to be forced to readjust in this round and go to a plan B.
And just like last time when they got the opening pick onto the Ace, when they were extending on this very same side of the map, on this very same site, you see M80X, the cogs start turning. They know that QoR cannot, clear this side of the map properly, so they're not even playing break room anymore. It's going to waste a lot of time for QoR, who are now rotating their execute or rotating their whole lineup over by east side, but M80X should expect this.
Seems like they're a lot more reserved this time. They don't want QoR spotting any free gaps and proccing infinite overtime. The long game of endurance could be really tricky for a new team such as M80X, but Brios, off the back of his teammate here, catches a crucial kill, but Rice is there on the horizontal angle, backing off just shortly enough to keep himself alive and hold archives, his teammates as well. Maybe retaking from 90. They've got CCTV control back in QoR Gaming. They're so tunnel visioned on this office clear that they might not be aware of this. M80X fishing for intel, the Rotero drone, breaking some utility, but it does not push away M80X. And all the meanwhile, forcing more and more time off the clock of QoR Gaming. Rice, perfectly timed swing, good for 3! This could be the conclusion of QoR Gaming's run, as it's just Inrio, another 1 versus 4 like we saw on map number 1 of Consulate. He downs Rice, but it might be too late. There's just 15 seconds left, and he's got no info to work off of except this concussive blast, pushes away at least 1 member, but Rice, as he's recovered, gets the 4th. And what a comeback from M80X. Their group stage was rough, but they make it through the gauntlet. They didn't find any success in Element 4, but now through the Crucible, they are your finalists to face off against JJ and Co. with a similar story. This might be Stompin's moment to shine, but he has one more obstacle to get through, and it's Mr. Sack, the deputy.
And a thing that's been really positive for M80X when it came to this map of Border was just finding gaps on their attacks, but also finding really key opening picks, specifically on the ace. I mentioned for the break room clear that ace is extremely important, but he's also extremely important for an archives execute, which QoR could not really complete very well. You still had Castle in the middle of the archive site because it couldn't open up the archive single wall with that ace. And you could see that QoR, they really struggled to find an opening in that round because they lost the ace so early.
I feel like almost every single round, like it was always QoR Gaming struggling to find that opening entry, not being too successful on the trade game either. And when you are playing as a really structured team like that, you rely a lot more on the opening entry, because if you lose it, you basically have to recover almost immediately and go to a plan B, which we saw countless times by QoR Gaming. So the constant aggression by M80X worked like a charm, not only on their opponent's map pick of Consulate, but on their home territory of Border, which we haven't yet seen by them in the Crucible, but I imagine we'll see it for that best of 5 series against JJ and Co. We'll throw it back to the desk just one more time and get their thoughts about this quick blowout 2-0 series that we just saw from M80X.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. M80 have punched their ticket into the grand finals of the Crucible, and we fighting JJ and Co. tomorrow in a best of 5. But we do want to break down this game and the beautiful siege that was displayed by M80 Academy as well as QoR. My name is CDAPS. I'm joined by Klimps. I'm joined by Yali and Mason. You just gotta say, M80 were the better team today.
And it's all about the potential that these kids show. I mean, this is a young core roster of players. There's a reason why M80 saw potential in them and recently picked them up as their academy roster. They just smoked a bunch of highly experienced players on the side of QoR. And this match, albeit close for M80X, probably the most challenging match they've played, or at least one of the more challenging matches they've played in recent history, they still were dominant, at least in some facets of the game. And ultimately, it felt like that they were the better and more cohesive team throughout this entire match. And I loved that the way they played, the way they traded, the fundamentals were there. You can see that the help of the professional coaching and insight is really, really helping out these young players.
Yeah, something that I really have loved about this roster ever since they were Bands Coast back in the Element days, that every single time they load in the server, they just get better and better. And they are such a hungry group of players, Yali, that seems like they have so much potential and the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's one thing to sit here and say that, yeah, they've got Fett helping them out. They've got an incredibly smart player in terms of Merc helping them out. It's another thing to say that, yeah, they've got those people in their back pockets and they're able to take what they say and execute it almost perfectly every single time they get in the lobby. I mean, we've seen over and over again, not so much in this series, but in the past, we've seen Merc call those timeouts and just the team never drops around after that. It's their timeout conversion, incredible, and it's because they are so able to effectively translate the things that they've heard from their coaches, these theories and ideas, and put them more on the field.
Yeah, and Mason, something that we saw in the interview with Handle or the side of QoR as we transition onto them, that they expected Handle to, have to be the one to step up, to be the fragger. But, it was kind of all Brios all day today.
Yeah, Candle had a rather quiet game, and that's unfortunately just the way that sometimes it goes. But I feel like QoR have recently had their biggest struggle be that they rely too much on key players to get the job done, and you just can't do that, because if someone like Candle, just like today, has an off day, you're not going to get the job done. And although Brios did pick up some slack in that department, still ultimately you've got 3 other players that need to do that as well.
Yeah, and on the side of M80 Academy, they had those players that could step up in big moments, Yali. We saw in round 11, just a few rounds ago, that anybody on M80 can step up and they can win rounds that did not seem possible.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this really quickly, obviously we've got Stompin sitting here in this corner, not really doing anything. He's got Franklin, obviously they're helping him. He's got that fundamental build of being able to trade. And meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, we've got M80 all swinging, making sure that QoR isn't comfortable. And even still, Stompin still in this quarter. He's not giving away his position. And he is that X factor that ultimately goes on, collects those 2 final kills, and wins them the round. And this is not an isolated play from M80X, but it is something that shows their adaptability, their ability to read different situations, and to take perfect advantage of whatever advantage they can find.
Yeah, those huge advantages in a game, Mason, that was so close, 7-5. You got to think those big plays were exactly what was the difference. You know, on the first map, Stompin had a huge clutch. On the second map, Stompin again had a huge play, as well as Rice from a very similar position. So you just got to think M80, that X really does stand for X Factor.
No, 100%, and I think that ultimately QoR had some failures tonight that led to those big plays, right? The inability to refrag and trade in those moments were the difference in key spots. So ultimately, going into the game a little bit tomorrow, JJ and Co are really going to have to tighten themselves up and make sure that they don't succumb to the same failures that QoR did tonight against M80X.
And with that, we do have an interview ready, so as soon as we get Aiden Dax into the call, I'll be able to pick his brain. Aiden, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. In a wonderful mood.
I can imagine when you punch your ticket to the grand finals and you have a dominant 2-0 victory. I'm sure that feels pretty dang good.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, first T3 League as a team. We haven't been playing PC, but for 2 months and we're already in the finals. I mean, shit, what's expected?
Yeah, and it seems like you have a really special group of players that you've been playing with for quite some time. As we start off on Consulate, it was an incredibly close game with a very kind of overall defender-sided just storyline being progressed throughout the game. But when you have somebody like Stompin who can just close out that basement attack that seemed like you couldn't have lose, I'm sure that feels great.
Yeah, it feels awesome. He's just so good in everything he does. He's literally just so talented. Oh, he just makes my day. Like, he's like the LeBron of Siege. Like, I don't even know. I would do unspeakable things to him. He's so cool. And
I mean, I think the Twitch chat would do the same, as there's almost next level glazing.
He's so cool. Yeah, I mean, next question? Or, I mean, I can talk about tomorrow.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I just wanted to also say that you saw your interview earlier, we all did, and you talked about how Merc is bringing so much structure to your team. I also wanted to open that up to the side of Rice, because he's a player that I've personally followed for a really long time. What exactly is he bringing to the table?
Oh, like late round adjustments. Like, there'll be some times where we call on defense and be like, actually, we should do this instead, or like that. Or he's better at micromanaging. Like, it's awesome. He has that pro league experience. I don't think he was Bolo's teammate, but played on Dark Zero, which is Bolo's org. But yeah, he brings a lot of aura to the team, and he's just so cool and so awesome. And then
you gotta respect the aura. Yeah. But you already talked about it earlier. We can talk about tomorrow. Your opponent is already set. It's going to be JJ and Co. And if you just saw a little while ago, they looked pretty dang good. How are you feeling going into tomorrow?
Feeling pretty great. I mean, JJ's been on PC for 5 years, and he's never won a C-tier event. Who's going to win first? Somebody who's been playing for 2 months, or somebody who's been playing for 7 years? We'll see. He's a fucking fraud. Anyway, another thing is I made a fraud list 2 interviews ago. I said ATK Rival and then the entire team of Slime Belief, and that list was perfect. 6 for 6. ATK Rival just went, 4-20 in a series. He's awful. Who else was there? Oh yeah, and Zach Killa's team, fucking putrid. Yeah, JJ and Co. I mean, we'll be playing them tomorrow. He's been trying to get my attention. Not gonna give him a lot. He wants the Jinxie effect. The lights are gonna be too bright. I mean, he's never won a T3 league. That's in the back of his mind. He's a burger, bro. I'm not worried. And Amelia, like their entire team's awful. Resided's a fraud. Emilio's a fraud. JJ's a fraud. Epic's cool. He's a Saints fan, but I mean, still a fraud. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for tomorrow.
I think we all are as well, but I'll also open up the floor just a little bit at the end. You know, get anything off your chest, talk to anybody out there in chat, give any special thank yous.
Or shout out again to all the content creators. Shout out Merc. He's brought us such a long way from being just like not talking shitty console kids. Just shout out King Stompin', you know, again, because he's just so beautiful, so awesome. Shout out Jinxie Loyals. They're my favorite group of people. And then one last thing. Fuck you, JJ. We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, that was that. I think that the feeling is very mutual between both of these rosters, that there is blood in the air. They can both smell it. They do not like each other at all. And I think that we're set up for a pretty good game, Mason.
I'm putting on my M80X jersey for tomorrow, only because JJ challenged me to recreate his dance of what he did to Eddie, and I can't wait to recreate that tomorrow when M80X toast JJ's ass.
And Yali, how are you feeling about tomorrow? Are you excited?
I'm really excited. These are both teams that up to this point haven't had anyone who is willing to swing against them, because they were doing all the swinging. So now we have these two titans getting ready to butt heads, and it's going to be a clash for the ages.
Yeah, and if we wanted to look at the bracket one final time for today to see how everything is panning out, there's been a lot of games played here in the Crucible playoffs. We've had 11 play days, but just the last few have been overall in this playoff bracket. We started off in the top left core. They took out Slime Belief, but unfortunately they fell at the hands of M80 Academy, who also kind of destroyed on Outlast, Mason.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, M80X have looked really, really good. Everyone thought that Cruelty were going to be the favorite team coming into playoffs, but now I almost want to give that edge to M80X. Obviously, they've got the big console following that's also been something supporting them. So M80X, a really exciting team, a young team with a lot to prove, being this newer roster, going against some old heads, such as JJ, as Aiden mentioned. So I personally am excited to see. I think both teams have beat some really, really solid talent, and I do think that with the way that the playoffs have ran out, we've got the best two teams available.
I completely agree, and everything has just looked so good. But with that, we are going to have to throw it to a quick see you in just a little bit. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be starting off with a best of 5 between JJ and Co. and an M80 Academy. Make sure to be there and have a nice night.